Yeah, well, it's different. I just thought it might be a bit of a better dynamic like this,
I don't know what that means. It feels weird because I'm on that side.
Hey, Sam,
Hey, Jack.
who have we got coming on the show today?
We've got Kate.
Right? Tell me about Kate.
Kate is in the sober community on Instagram, walking the straight line. Sorry, I've been rude then.
Okay,
I didn't realise you literally lived together on the same couch. That's crazy.
absolutely not. No, I could never live with Sam. Absolutely.
You're looking, even with his dapper new beard trim.
Yeah, he looks like a tramp.
But the main thing is that, even though it looks terrible, means
It's for charity. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was more for pride than anything.
I'm not a beard fan, not a big one.
Oh no.
Feels like you're hiding something.
Yeah, he is.
How are you?
We're good. You haven't met Jack before, have you?
No.
Hello.
Which makes it even more funny that you just insulted his beard.
Yes.
Oh, you know me. Listen, can you imagine me drunk when I'm like this? When I'm so I was an absolute liability.
Yeah.
Like run and hide. But yeah, no, I'm sure I'm on the spectrum somewhere. I just say what I think. It's quite nice, really. I like to think it's endearing rather than rude.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I call it as well. I'm endearing.
Yeah.
Oh, dearing.
Well, that's a dad joke.
I've met you before because I was on your podcast and we've done a lot, haven't we? But haven't in person, but hopefully one day we will. But I just wanted to come on today and give you the opportunity to tell your story. Really, I know you're a big part of the sober community on Instagram, which has helped me and it's helped you and helps plenty of other people. I've heard clips of your stories and seen your very creative reels and the posts you do and stuff. And but I wanted to hear your story from the start to how bad things got and how things are now. You're in sobriety, so take it away.
Want me to just start talking?
Yeah.
I'm Kate. No. So I mean, really, I'll set the scene. So I grew up in London in a kind of very big and busy house. I've got 3 siblings. My parents had 4 kids in 5 years. So we were literally every year at school. The headmistress hated us. My dad was a publisher. So our house was full of authors and illustrators. So yeah, we had like a big house and it was full of people all the time, really interesting, creative people like Roald Dahl, for example, and Doris Lessing and Quentin Blake, and people sitting always around the table just talking. And of course there was drink. There was always gin and tonics before dinner, wine, whiskey. And as a kid, you watch this and of course you think it's totally normal because everyone's doing it. Everyone, every adult, they were laughing. They'd get merrier and merrier. It was like a sort of adult sweet shop, all these different colored bottles. And I just thought, well, that looks really fun. So even when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was already anticipating the day that I'd be able to drink and be like these people. So as I grew up, I think I have always been really tall. I'm 5'11", and I was really tall as a teenager. So by the time I was 14, I could get into pubs, I could get sold alcohol, and I basically was buying super tenants and breaking into the local playing fields with my friends and smoking, drinking, and putting music on until there was nothing left to drink. And that sort of just progressed. It just never stopped. It was just something that once we were old enough, we then started drinking in the local bars. The pubs, when we were actually legally old enough, we'd go further into London. So, that just progressed, and it went from, as soon as we were old enough to drink in pubs, we'd stop going to the crappy locals and we'd go further into town. We'd go to wine bars. Once we got jobs, we had a bit more money. And it just went on. And I worked in media. I'm a writer, and I used to write Disney comics. And I was in this incredible environment full of creative people. We went to the pub every day at work. for an hour. Some people would drink half a pint, some people would manage to drink 2 pints, and then we'd go to the pub every day after work. And I remember working in one place where there was a tab at the local pub because they were like, you lot are so much more creative when you're pissed. I mean, that's almost like poisoning your staff to get work out of them, isn't it? And I look back on that and I just think I was so excited when I was working there, because I thought this is amazing, and my friends were so jealous. But looking back, it's not good at all. But I was, even then I would get blackout drunk. I wouldn't remember parts of the evening. I wouldn't remember conversations. I'd wake up covered in bruises, and my mum used to say I was allergic to alcohol, but I wasn't. I'm just an incredibly quick drinker. I do everything quickly. I eat quickly. I work quickly. My mind races. And I used to drink a glass of wine in the time other people had had a couple of sips, and I'd be on my second one. So by the time I realized that I was getting drunk, I still had 2 glasses of wine to hit my system, by which point my eyes went to that kind of, oh God, Kate's gone. We're going to have to try and get her home. And it basically just went on and on to the point where I thought, my God, I'm literally always drinking every single night, and I'm waking up and I'm managing to go to work. But I lived in New York for a bit. I lived in Rome in Italy for a bit, and I just traveled, but I realized I wasn't growing at all, because I don't think you really can when your aim of every day is to get to a bar or to a pub that evening. And I would drink at home as well. I never saw anything wrong with that. You hear people saying, once I started drinking alone, I knew it was bad. But I would have a glass of wine when I was 17 at home studying for my A-levels. And I really genuinely did not think there was anything wrong with that. So it just progressed. And eventually I got pregnant, and I've got 2 kids, and I stopped for 9 months for each of those. But then as soon as, they were a few months old, off it went again, mummy wine culture. And all my friends would get together with their babies, and we'd all get drunk basically. And it was just everywhere. And it wasn't until my kids were sort of, oh, Sam, what was I saying? We were talking about this the other day. They must have been about 10 and 11. And I just realized I was really unhappy. I was drinking, a bottle of wine a night on average. And I was just like, what am I doing with my life? I have not fulfilled any goals. I don't have any dreams. I look dreadful. My face is puffy. I'm overweight. I'm unhappy. I wake up every morning saying, why have you done this again? I hate myself. I'm a really happy and confident person on the outside, but I was just stunted. I think that's the only word I can think of it. And I had been for 20 years. I was like, what the fuck have I done? I have literally worked to get drunk, recovered, worked to get drunk. And I've done it in different cities, and I've met some amazing people, and I have had great fun. But I haven't grown. I haven't changed. I have no hobbies. My only hobbies were drinking. I mean, that is the truth of it. And it was the 20th of December, and we had a house full of alcohol a couple of years ago. And I got really drunk, and I pulled out my phone and I recorded myself, and I was like, oh, okay. I was slurring my words, which I always did. And I basically just said, stop doing this to yourself. This is not you. This stuff is poisoning you. It's ruining your life. Please, please stop doing this to me. And there's something about begging your sober self to stop that you have to take notice of, because in the morning, I only could manage to watch about 30 seconds of it. And actually, I did not watch the whole 5 minutes of it for a year, because it made me feel so physically ill to think about watching it. But I did watch a bit, and I have not had a drink since, because I think you've got rock bottom when something happens. And don't get me wrong, I have been hit by a car to the point I should have broken both my legs, but I didn't because I was so drunk. I've been in car accidents. I have fallen through glass doors. I have been cut and bruised and, messed up my knee. I've done so much stuff, but none of that stopped me. But sometimes your rock bottom, you crawl down it step by step. You don't fall. It's not a massive impact. And for me, that's what it was like. It was lots and lots of little steps every day for so many years. And I just thought, I am disgusted with who I am. I am not happy. I'm not progressing. I'm going to die and look back and go, I wasted all of that. And that was it. Did you ask a question? Have I just been chatting?
No, I love. This is why I like doing lives and stuff with you. I don't have to do much. No. But what I was going to say is that I've heard you. I don't think you've spoke to me about that video you've got. I think I've heard it on a different podcast I've listened to with you on before. But it's very powerful. You must have subconsciously known that you were going to watch that and have a message to yourself. Like, what was your thoughts behind that?
I mean, I don't remember what I was thinking when I did it, but I think by that time I was pretty desperate in that I knew I needed to stop, you know, and you can do all these online quizzes, can't you? Am I an alcoholic? No, I don't drink during the day. Yes, I can have a day off without getting the shakes. Oh, that's fine. And no one ever said to me, I think you've got a problem with drinking, you should stop. You know, my kids were clean and went to school on time. I did my job. It was me, it was in my head, but I was deteriorating, and I just did not like myself. I never woke up thinking, what's ahead? Or well done. I woke up thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Have I done anything to embarrass myself? Have I had an argument I didn't need to have? And I always said, well, I don't get depression. I'm not anxious. But now that I've stopped, I realized there was this dark cloak over me constantly, because it takes so long for alcohol to get out of your system. I basically had alcohol in my system my whole adult life because I never went long enough without it to be clear of it. And that's terrifying. So I didn't actually know what I was interested in, or how I would react in a certain way, or what I thought about this, or, you know, what I found interesting, how I composed myself in an evening, or what I even wanted to do in an evening when I wasn't searching for alcohol some way. So it's been a kind of, I knew I was missing all of that in my life. And I think I was getting really fed up of those constant thoughts and the constant lack of approval I was giving myself. And I could see physically, you know, I'm in my 40s, I'm not a spring chicken. And I thought, if I don't sort this out now, it's going to be too late. And so I think I did know what I was doing. And I think it was a desperate act, because I needed a kick up the arse. I needed something that was actually going to scare me. And I don't get scared in dangerous situations. You know, I jump into shark infested waters and work out how I'm going to get back. That excites me. That's how I deal with life. I don't think about it. I go for it and I go, let's see how I can get out. And that's why alcohol was dangerous, because whatever it threw at me, I just took it in my stride, and I just went, oh, look, I'm still here. Whereas seeing yourself in this state, crying, seriously upset, begging yourself, that's a kind of emotional wake up call that I couldn't ignore. And I think my subconscious knew that was what I needed. And I'm so glad I did it. I don't know if you've ever filmed yourself, because that's the first time I had ever done that. So I had never actually heard myself speaking.
Yeah, powerful. I used to have all the mirrors turned round at my old place. I don't know if you've heard it, but I smashed a mirror in my old flat, and all my other mirrors were turned round because I couldn't bear to look at myself. So I
really
can relate in that way. Yeah, I wouldn't look at myself for a long time, and when I did go to the shops or venture around the streets, and I caught my reflection in a car window, or I used to hate it. It really like bother me. Yeah, so I can relate definitely. Like seeing yourself in a certain state. But
well, you can hide from everything. You become very defensive, and I don't know how you two were, and I you know, I don't know a lot of your stories, but for me, I was very defensive about if anyone mentioned alcohol or my behavior or anything. And it's because I was embarrassed and I had no answer. But when you're saying it to yourself, you cannot hide anywhere. There's no one to argue with, because you're saying it. And it was just me in the room. And I was the only person that recorded it, and I was the only person that saw it. There was
it's
nowhere
interesting that it only took you the first 30 seconds. You couldn't watch all of it. So
No.
it was that powerful that it only took you a few seconds for it to have an impact. Have you watched it all since?
Yeah, I watched it on my year anniversary of being sober, and I was bawling my eyes out, and it was like, oh, and it's, yeah, I couldn't. And you know what? I tried, and I thought, okay, I just don't love myself. And I remember in the first couple of days, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, I love you. And it felt so weird. And it felt so emotional. And I started crying. And I am not a crier at all. And it was just overwhelming. And because hearing myself say it and acknowledging the fact I didn't feel it and I hadn't for so long, and that I hadn't been looking after I mean, I think drinking to excess is self-harming. That's how I see it. That's what I was doing. And I hadn't realized how much it was having an effect on me. I really did think I was just getting slurring, and I would be a bit more wobbly. And sometimes I'd say things or do things that would embarrass myself, because I didn't really get hangovers, probably because I was always full of alcohol. So it doesn't really, I used to show off about it, but in hindsight, it's probably something I should not have been showing off about.
Yeah.
But, you know, all of everything, my smell, my taste, I'm so much sharper. I thought I'd lose my creativity. I was really worried about my work. And it's the opposite. And I'm just like, oh my God, you know, life is so beautiful. And I had never realized how much joy, and I sound like an old woman reading a gardening manual, but actually that sounds rude, because I think that's quite cool. But, you know, I just suddenly saw things in a completely different way. And I never had to feel guilt or shame. And with those loads lifted off your shoulder, you literally skip down the road. And when you haven't ever felt that before,
well,
when a week
you brought up a good point. As we used to drink, and that I think because we were scared to feel in the way you feel when you don't have a drink. We wasn't comfortable with how we were feeling, and you used the drink for so long to mask over that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, do you know why you drank? Because people ask me, and I think I drank because I was bored. You know, my brain is very quick, and but it's also, I feel very much like, well, I've never met anyone like me, and I'm imagining every human feels that way, because the stuff that goes on in our heads, you can never jump into someone else's head and experience it. And we are unique.
The way I see it is that but me and you both started drinking from a young age. Now, I've always had high anxiety levels, like most people do, probably. But instead of dealing with any of my emotions, I would drink on every single emotion, whether that was anxious, sad, angry, happy, whatever emotion it was. I'd drink on, so I wouldn't allow myself to feel that emotion for too long, because I'd mask over it and numb it down. And when I'd done that for so long, I was always afraid of any emotion, feeling it for too long. So I used to drink or take drugs to mask over that emotion before it got to up here. And that's what I think, when you stop drinking, you feel uncomfortable in that, because then you take away the alcohol and the drug, and all you're left with is all these emotions, and you're like, oh fuck, what do I do with them all? Do you know what I mean? But when you start to understand them, and to just go on a little ride of happiness, or a little ride of anxiety, or a little ride of sadness, you learn that every emotion is only temporary, so it's nothing to be afraid of, because it will pass. Like, each emotion will pass up. So once you get it around once you get
I think I also wanted emotion. I was trying to create excitement and feeling, because I was almost numb, you know, because I didn't have anything of real value in my life. I was not growing. I was still that 14-year-old, because I hadn't developed real interests. I hadn't ever done anything without having alcohol in the evening. And it really does keep you in a corner. Whereas as soon as you start to, it's almost like you can take steps in a new direction. And every time you drink, you go back. So I never was able to get further than the garden path, but suddenly I was able to go out. And because of that, I was almost trying to create drama in my brain or emotions, or if I got injured or there was excitement, it was almost like punishment or something. And to be honest, I still have not got to the bottom of it. I'm 16 months sober, but I don't understand, because I was so young when I started, and I didn't start by having one beer a week, and then after a year it turned into a glass. I drank as much as I could find from as soon as I started drinking. It was just fun.
16 months is incredible as well. And just to double check, this is the first time you stopped drinking, and you never even thought about it or tried before?
I've tried once and I did quite well. But when I tried before, I was really annoyed that I couldn't drink. It was like a punishment to myself. So I, go, I'm not allowed to drink, because I know if I have one, I'll drink the whole bottle, but I still want to do it. And of course, inevitably, I got bored of it. And I knew that morning I was going to drink that evening, if I'm honest. And I think most people say that, it's already there. And once you've made the decision, there's nothing anyone's going to say.
You can relapse months before you pick up a drink, they say, don't you? And that's what happened with me the last time. I relapsed in my head. I didn't drink for 3 months, but I'd already relapsed mentally, and I learned that after. It's such an important thing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to realise when the relapse is coming on, I think, and nip it in the bud, because you can actually.
You've got to be honest. You've got to be really honest, and that's hard when you've been living this kind of weird double life. The alcohol, it makes you very strange. It doesn't make things clear, and it makes it very hard to know yourself when you drink a lot, because your mental state is altered. It's a drug, and there are, it really is a drug. And I always used to go, oh, I didn't take drugs. All my friends took drugs. I never took drugs. I was just the one person who didn't. Of course I did. Alcohol is a drug, and it was so much more dangerous than a lot of the stuff my friends were doing, smoking weed or something. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's, the second time round I did it, and I actually didn't covet alcohol. I actually hated it. I was angry at everything I'd given up for this drink that drugged me, and I saw it in a completely different way.
Mindset changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that is what's been different for me this time as well. I found a fellowship, but it's the mindset thing. Whereas before, I always felt like I was missing out. Exactly what you just said.
Yes.
I feel like I missed out from drinking so much now, and that's the difference. Do you know what I mean? From feeling like I was missing out when not going out with my friends, to then thinking, oh fuck no, actually I missed out years by not getting sober earlier.
Exactly. And you're not really, you're missing out anyway, aren't you, if you're drunk? The conversations that drunk people have are so boring. I mean, Jack, you don't drink either? Well, you do.
So I do, but I don't drink often. Like very, my experiences with my mental health kind of stemmed from some health anxiety that happened around the time I was sort of 20, 21.
Right.
And I've had a series of kind of massive dips in my life, big depressions. But none of them have been drink related. So my coping strategy with all of them was never ever was to turn to drink or drugs.
Yeah.
For me, drinking was always more of a social thing, and even now, it's like I had a couple of beers when I finished the London Marathon a couple of weekends ago. But then before that, it was probably 2 or 3 months prior at like a friend's leaving do.
Oh my god!
And then before that, it was like a couple of months before like Christmas.
I can't get made around.
I can't imagine.
I don't. That's why I don't like to talk about it a lot, because we get.
No, but it's really interesting. But it's interesting, isn't it? The difference, because it's what you're chasing. You weren't chasing escape or to get drunk.
No.
But Sam and I obviously were. We wanted that hit of whatever it was for whatever reason. Yeah. And that's why I didn't care what it tastes like.
Yeah.
And if someone had said to me, you can only have one glass, I would have said, I don't want any, because that is torture. That's how I would have.
That is the difference. Me and you and Jack, if we all went for a pint now, one pint, and said, we're only going to have one drink, Jack would have one drink and go home. Me and you would be down the nearest nightclub. until 6 in the morning.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then I'd be on the phone to a drug dealer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it escalates pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's so true.
That's just I get that. You know, from the time I've spent with Sam and the people we've spoken to, I find it really interesting. You know, for me, alcohol was introduced when I was growing up. When we were just kids. My mum and my stepdad used to drink like wine with meals. Neither of them were big drinkers. My stepdad maybe more than my mum, but they introduced alcohol to me and my brother quite young. We'd just have it like every now and again. That'd be like a little treat to have with a meal.
Yeah.
Obviously,
see, I had that as well.
Yeah,
once you've had one and you've then had two, everything changes. All bets are off. I will do whatever I want, and then that's.
I've said that before. I see myself as two different individuals, and when I'm sober, Sam, that's got a ring to it. Sober Sam.
Sober Sam.
Oh, no. I'm joking.
Here we go.
When I'm sober Sam, though, I can think straight. I'm still not the most sensible bloke in the world, but I'm all right. But as soon as you put one drink or drug inside me, and I am a completely different person, the fun, jokey Sam that you see and everyone loves. Nearly everyone loves, but that person's gone, and when I have a drink or anything mind altering inside my body, I become like there's like a grey clouds over the top of me. I'm fucking horrible person to be around, so and I'm aware of that, so I completely isolate myself from everyone that loves me. I shut the curtains, turn the fucking lights off, I put softy music on, and I don't speak to anyone, and it just becomes a complete pity party.
Were you always like that when you drank? Because I wasn't. I was Russian roulette. I would be good fun one day.
Yeah, it was progressive. And it started off as a light and soul party, and I'd do crazy things, and I really enjoyed it. And I'd go out and everything and have a laugh with my mates and that. And then as soon as you smash in the amount of cocaine I was smashing in, it's only going to do one thing. And as soon as I do that, it completely turns me paranoid, and that's it. I isolate myself completely. And that the last 3 times I've relapsed, it's been exactly the same way, just completely isolate myself and
it doesn't make sense why we kept doing something when there was so little to gain and so much to lose. And Jack seems to have it right, because I don't really see the point. I might have a few, but why would I drink? It doesn't give me any benefits.
Yeah,
because we chased that 5%.
I've said it before, and I truly believe that I become addicted to depression as well. I've become so used to that emotion. Yeah, I've become so used to that emotion. That was my comfort anchor, and no matter how bad I felt, I was comfortable feeling like that, and any other emotion didn't sit right with me. So I almost enjoyed the self-pity and obliterating myself.
I suppose that links back to that kind of self-harm element to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're constantly putting yourself into that state of depression, but you're kind of thriving on it almost, or that self-harm kind of thing.
Definitely. And it's the things you do. You know, I went out for a quiet drink with a friend.
If this runs out quickly, then we're going to send you another 9 minutes. Oh, we've got 9 minutes. So if it runs out, we'll send another one. We'll go again. It's all right.
My friend said, I'm in this knitting group, and can you come along? It's really boring. It's in the town hall. I was like, no, I'm in my pajamas. I'm not interested. I've got 2 kids, young kids at home. I don't want to go. I'm not into knitting. I can't even sew a button. Please find someone else. And please. So I went to the off license. I bought a bottle of wine. I said, I'll be back in an hour. I ended up arrested in a police cell for the night. I mean, that's how much.
Quickly.
A bloody town hall. And there's some sort of knitting sewing convention with 6 people. It's amazing the trouble I could get into without any help.
Yeah, what actually happened? How did that happen?
What happened was we got drunker and drunker, and then met up with other people, and then eventually I told a policeman to fuck off, and it all got a bit messy because my friend was in the gutter, couldn't remember where she lived, and it was all. I mean, I didn't really do that. He ended up leaving her and putting me in the police car as well. So this girl, this woman who couldn't remember her address at sort of 1:30 in the morning, in the gutter, she couldn't stand up. She was wearing heels, so drunk. He left her and took me off. I mean, that in itself is bad.
Yeah.
But still, it was mortifying, and I didn't know my phone number.
I can see the headlines now. Naughty knitters nicked. God, I had to be careful how I said that.
I wasn't the knitter. I was literally the sidekick with a drink problem who came along and thought, I'll show you what's cool. This is not cool. Watch this. And then off I went.
Yeah.
You know, but it's awful. And my husband didn't know where I was, you know, and it's like, who does this? What woman in her 40s goes out and ends up getting arrested? And it's things like that. And it's back to that self-harm. I knew at the time, I could sense I was getting into dangerous waters, but it was like, why not? You might do something that's going to get you into a lot of trouble, but you deserve to be in trouble because look at you. And that probably will take years of me working it out. But there is definitely either you like your pity party like you did, Sam, or you don't feel like you're worthy like me. So when catastrophe happens, you're like, bring it on because I deserve it.
I think also a lot of what happened with ended up isolating myself and it become this pity party and that as well was because for a long period of time going out, I was doing reckless stuff and I was getting in trouble with the police. I had fights with the police and stuff like that, and it was either going to go one or two ways. You know, I was going to just completely keep wrecking my reputation, or go to prison, or if
knitting clubs and stuff. Yeah.
If I got nicked in a knitting club,
this guy, honestly, this guy knitting,
me and knitting.
Honestly, you have no idea.
I thought I recognised you from somewhere. Yeah. You were at that bloody knitting club.
You kicked off at me knitting club.
I mean, we can laugh now because we're alive and we're not in prison, but it is. You can't make this stuff up, can you?
No. We used to drink until we're blackout and go around, and essentially, your body is walking around doing stuff, and your mind's not with it. And that is such a scary place to be. Like you're getting arrested by telling a copper to fuck off and stuff like that. And I've been nicked for swinging and stuff, but not swinging. I meant swinging.
Swinging?
No, swinging like
fighting. Don't edit. Jack, don't edit that out. Keep that in.
I'm not touching it.
Tell us more.
I was actually, me and my brother were playing Crazy Golf once, and it was actually called Swingers, and I tagged us in it. And my nan was like, "Where are you?" But no, I meant swinging, like fighting and stuff. And
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Whatever.
It's dangerous, isn't it? Because
I'd
wake up with black eyes, cuts on my knuckles and stuff, and I wouldn't have no memory of what had happened. Now, for all I know, you could have actually killed someone, or someone could have killed me. It's so dangerous, like.
And I don't understand the science. Maybe one of you two do, but I don't understand what happens when you get to a blackout point. But your body basically can't handle the alcohol and it shuts down. Obviously you can still move, but lots of it just goes zoom. I can't deal with this.
I saw a video the other day of Robin Williams talking about it, and he said about blackouts, and he was a comedian and that, and he was saying basically a blackout is your body going, I'm going to do something stupid, and your mind going, I ain't fucking hanging around. So it goes the other way. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But it's horrible. You know, it's horrible when you wake up and you look at your phone and you're like, oh, it's one of those. I'm going to have like a cleanup job to do and apologies, and then people are like, well, why did you say it? Alcohol's a truth serum. You're like, it's not actually. And I was probably remembering something that happened a year ago or something at work, and I took it out on, I'm sorry, no, you said it, explain it. And you're like, not only can I not explain it, I don't even remember what I said. So you're trying to get clues as to what the conversation was, so that you can explain what you meant. And it's a pointless conversation.
Oh, I feel that dread, innit?
And the kind of looking around the room, or, you know, and for me, it was, you know, I'd have to sometimes just quickly put my pajamas on in the morning before the kids came in, because it's like I'm still wearing my clothes, you know, like, It's just, luckily I don't wear makeup, and I never have, because I never had that whole look going on. No, well.
Although there was one time at a swingers convention.
Yeah. But it's the amount of brain time that drinking takes up is phenomenal. Thinking about wanting a drink and what's in the house, drinking and your mind going off on these bloody tangents that are irrelevant and dangerous, phoning people you don't want to speak to, deciding you're going to phone an ex-boyfriend because you're bored and lonely, and they're like, look, just leave me alone. You're like, no. All the stuff.
Do you remember as well where you had a blackout and you can't remember nothing, and then you'd be sat there watching crap TV, eating crap food, and then you'd be, and something would come back to you what you'd done the night before, and you're like, oh no, and then little bits would come back throughout the day, like no.
Yeah.
Then looking at your phone like that, thinking, oh no.
Well, people loved telling me. Yeah. People love saying, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And because I hated that, and it made me feel so sick, and people don't realize how mortified you are, especially if you put on a brave face and sort of go, yeah, whatever. It's so humiliating when you've done something to embarrass yourself, that you don't need people saying, oh my God, do you remember? Oh, how did you get home all right? That's not what they're asking. They want to see how I respond. And I never did that to anyone because I knew what it felt like. But again, I felt I deserve this. I did do that, even though I can't remember it, and I would never do anything. I am a kind person. I'm a positive person. I'm a very empathetic person. I look around and I'll think, can I help someone, or can I do something? So for me to do things that are embarrassing, it doesn't just sort of water off a duck's back for me. It's mortifying because I wouldn't normally do that. So it's just, all that crap is gone. And that is what has just made me feel so much better and more confident.
No, I want to ask you touched on how, like when you were drinking, you didn't have, none of your friends kind of said that they thought you had a problem, or no one said that they felt like you need to get help or anything like that. How did that change when you decided to get sober? Like, what was the dynamic like with that regular friendship group, or those regular peers that you were going out and drinking with? Like, how did that relationship change once you got sober?
That's a good question. And not one I've ever been asked, actually. I've been asked how people treat me, but it's interesting to think about, because I don't have a group of friends. I never did at school. I am a bit of a waif and a stray, and I pick people up as I go, and I stay friends with them, but they're not, it's very rare that I have like a group of friends. Mm-hmm. So I've got lots of individual friends who I would drink with. And I am good fun, and I was good fun when I was a drinker, until my sort of great white shark eyes came out and I collapsed and they couldn't pick me up. But I didn't really cause that much mischief. I didn't hurt other people. I hurt myself. So they didn't tell me to stop because I was fun. I used to be really generous with buying the drinks, probably because I was drinking quicker. I didn't want to wait for someone else's round. So I would get another round in often, and I'd end up buying twice as many rounds as most people. Not that they were stingy. I just wanted to drink quicker. Yeah. So people never really told me to stop because they enjoyed my company. And also, if you've got one friend who's always going to get more drunk than you, that's quite a handy thing to have, because they're always going to be the one people talk about, and you can get off scot-free, even though you did end up falling asleep under a tree, but she ended up getting hit by a car, so they won't, it's but when I
love how you said that so casually, but this actually happened.
I was just gonna say, let's just pretend that happened. Absolutely did happen. But I won't mention any names. But when I stopped, I felt awkward initially, and I did not go out for a while because I didn't want to. I didn't think about being triggered as much, but I just didn't want to go to a pub, and I was just really counting the days, and I just wanted to be at home. But weirdly, a few people made fun of me and started to try and bring up things I'd done. Or I remember one person saying to me, "Is it okay if I have another drink, Kate? Do you mind?" And I was like, "Do what you want. Don't you dare make me look bad because I've decided not to drink. I'm still out. I'm driving you home. and actually what you're doing is what I used to do, which is sort of making light of it and making fun of it so that it makes it seem like it's okay. And I won't take that. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a very timid person. So when someone says something like that, I will say, that's not on, I'm really trying hard. I'm sitting here, you're drinking. I'm not saying anything negative about that. Don't make fun of the fact I'm not. And I just stopped it. And there were a few people who did that. And quite frankly, the people who had a problem with it were the people that I only was friends with because they drank a lot. And wherever I went in the world, I went to New York when I was 20 and lived over there because I've got an American passport. And I actually remember celebrating my 21st birthday the night before I was 21, because in America, obviously, you have to be 21 to drink. And I said, look, in England, it's tomorrow. So I am 21 and I was born in England. And they went, right, you're the first person we've ever legally allowed in underage. And it was like, yay. But, even there, I would, you can tell, and I don't know if you have found this, Sam, but you move to a new house or you go to a new pub or you go somewhere, you can tell the people who are going to be big drinkers immediately, who are going to be, you turn up at 5 o'clock on a Friday with a bottle of wine and they're not going to go, oh gosh, it's a bit early. Who are going to go, yeah, open it. And I always found those people because that was me and I would want to do that. So those people had a problem with it. And I don't really see those people anymore, but there's no loss because they don't want to be with someone who doesn't drink. And really, we had nothing in common. But I have had a lot of support because weirdly, and I was not expecting this, a lot of my friends don't drink that much. I never noticed because I was always drinking so much. But I go out now and they'll have one glass of wine for the whole evening and then they'll start drinking something else, or they'll say to me, I'm not going to drink because you're not. And actually, I've got a lot on tomorrow. That concept was so alien to me. I never, ever ordered a non-alcoholic drink in a pub or a bar in my life. So I didn't notice, but other people don't drink like I used to drink.
Yeah, and of course, just realised that.
And I only realised it about them. So actually, my friends have been really supportive, and a lot of them, I've had, ex-boyfriends, friends I haven't seen since I was 15, message me on Instagram and say, I've just come across your account and thought, I know her, I need to stop, and it's been amazing because it's kind of like, I can't believe they think I'm someone they can go to advice because I've always just been the drinker. But so many people are actually not comfortable with their drinking, and I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be really difficult. And my friends have been great. My family are thrilled.
So you haven't had none of the old, oh, go on, have one when you first stopped drinking and that?
I had, they didn't think it would last, but no one, but I don't, as I explained, I say what I think, and I think people are always a bit scared to try and bully me because I won't be bullied, and I'll just say, why would you say that to someone who's trying not to drink? I'm very much like that. I would ask them like a child, why are you asking someone who's clearly said they've got a problem with alcohol if they want to
people
drink
do that,
in front of everyone, and they would be awkward. So no one has.
People do that, don't they? I mean, I had a conversation with my friend who's 14, coming up to 14 years sober. He's a brilliant bloke as well. I speak to him on the phone all the time and that. And he just hit the nail on the head for me because I just saw, like I've always told people, I say no once, say no twice, and tell them to fuck off on the third time. But he just said to me, whenever he gets out or if he goes to business meetings and stuff, and people go, go and have one. Why aren't you drinking? Now he just says, because I'm happy with who I am today. And after he said that, there's no more questions. You know what I mean? It actually makes the other person start to think, oh, what am I drinking? You know what I mean?
But that's the problem, is that you can sound like you're, giving some sort of speech, or you're on your higher position talking down. Well, it's bad for you, I don't drink, but look at you, you're drinking it. And that makes me feel uncomfortable because I don't mind other people drinking. My husband still drinks. It's, I don't like being around drunk people, but alcohol in itself does not trigger me. And
that's exactly the same. When I went away on the caravan holiday recently, Mum and Dad would have a pint at the pub and a glass of wine, my brother and whatnot. Doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't even come into my head. when I was at a party at New Year's and everyone was drinking the way I used to, it really triggered me and I had to get out of there. And it's because that's how I used to do it. I can be around people that drink and just have the one because I'd never drink like that myself, so it didn't trigger me. But when I'm around people how I would get on it, I was like, shit, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. And you feel the excitement and that buzz and that kind of like,
and that little gremlin comes into your ear and like, go on, have one. Just have one, Sam. It'll be all right.
No, it won't be one. But it's interesting what you said about your friend, because I think if I worked in an office, it would be different. And if I had work dues, but because I work as a freelancer at home, I don't have that pressure, because people at work wouldn't understand. I'm honest with my friends, so they understand it and they're supportive. But people at work, there's that distance and they just want to go out and escape their unhappy lives at home, or they don't have homes and they just want to party or whatever. A lot of them don't know you really, really well. And those are the kind of situations I think that I hear people get pressured a lot, work parties and work evenings. And they're like, but we've got clients. And the whole point is we sit around and we get a bit drunk and then we agree to all these things. You've got to drink, and it's hard.
And I think, would you agree as well? There's some days in sobriety for me and probably yourself where it's really fucking difficult. And if you're in that situation constantly, it only needs to take one of them weekdays to just think, oh, fuck it, and essentially hit that fuck it button. Do you know what I mean? And it would be very difficult.
I think a lot of people leave. A lot of people change their lives drastically when they stop drinking. When they assess it and they say, this is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you have to take yourself out of certain situations, whether that be at a job or family members or even friends. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
I just started Instagram because at 50 days, I thought I need more of a community, more of a support. Otherwise, I'm going to get bored, and I need other people around me who are going through the same thing. So I set it up. I didn't know how to use Instagram. I don't have any other social media. And I am quite a creative person. I've worked in the creative industries. So I'm, I can piece things together. I'm a writer, so I can just... And I started talking about documenting my journey. And I found that Instagram for me was like therapy, because I have probably 10 or 15 ideas a day of posts, of reels, and I can whip my phone out. I don't post 15 times a day, by the way, Jack, before you say anything. But
this guy, let me tell you. Let me tell you something about this guy.
I wouldn't know because I blocked him because he posts so much.
Yes.
You would be the first.
I haven't really, Sam.
You would be the first and you won't be the last.
I have done that. But yeah, I found I really, and I find it quite easy to do, and it's quick, and it's me getting something out there, and it provokes conversations. And I just thought, once I hit a year, I thought I would like to do a podcast. There's so much to talk about. Podcasts really helped me in the first 6 months. I listened to so many, and hearing other people be honest was like a hug. It was like, and I knew I wasn't alone. A lot of people say it was amazing to know I wasn't alone. I knew I wasn't alone because I've got eyes and I could look around and I can see how many people on a Friday or Saturday night are walking around. I know lots of my friends drink a lot, but I didn't know the stories, and the honesty and the compassion and the empathy really hit me. And I thought, I love this community, this group of people. And they are so cool, because I thought sober was going to be so boring. And it was amazing to see people who I genuinely went, I really would love to meet them for a coffee. And that filled me with this kind of hope of life is going to be okay, because look at them. If they're sober and they look and they talk and they do all this stuff, look at them, then I'll be okay. And it was great. So I just wanted to give something back, really. And I'm a chatterbox, and my co-host Steph is in the States, and she interviewed me on her podcast. And I just said to her, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And we got talking, and then the result was, let's try it together. And I just think it works really well because we're quite different.
Great. Yeah, I love that, and it is good to have a co-host. I am thinking about going solo.
It's funny. I mean, I'm thinking the same thing.
Huh? No, I'm joking.
Oh dear.
We're joking, aren't we?
Yeah. No, you're a good. It's nice when there's two of you, because it's more interesting, especially when people are willing to be honest. And you've obviously got very different experiences, and you've come from two different, so you can cover all bases, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but no, we're both from very different backgrounds and both got very different experiences, but the same sort of passion for it as well. Conversations in this format, where it's with people who have been through things but have managed to sort of turn it around and make a positive out of it, or change their lives, and that I get such enjoyment out of it. And I very much agree with you when it comes to kind of Instagram. I think it just adds to my life, really. There's an element there where I could connect with people from all over the world with kind of joint interest on something. Me personally, I use it as like an archive, because I've always lived my life by wanting to achieve things. And
is that a journal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I wanted to achieve things and set challenges and get goals and things like that, and then I catalogue it all. So it's like an archive. I can look back and places I've been and things I've done, and
it's a modern way of journalising everything.
That's true. And I think your point about talking to people and being able to use that at work, it's fascinating. I mean, show me anyone who would sit at a table in a cafe and there's people having an in-depth conversation nearby who aren't listening in. People love hearing other people's stories, whether it's fascination, whether they're going to learn something. And and the problem with mental health and addiction is exactly what Sam said earlier. You can get very comfortable in that dark, dangerous cocoon, and actually, unless someone else shows you a brighter, more interesting and appealing place in the distance, you are not going to you don't want to get up and go. And you cannot do this unless you want to do it. Everyone knows that. You have to want it or it will fail. So by listening to other people, by learning, oh, that makes sense, that would work, they're tools that will help other people. And sometimes I will say one thing and I will get a message 2 months later from someone saying, since I heard that one thing or saw that one post, I have not had a drink. And I'm like, what? But it goes.
That lights a fire under you to keep doing it as well, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. And I just
sometimes get people say to me, why do you post so much? Which I can understand, and family members and friends joke about with me and have banter going, oh, you're posting again, which is fair enough because they see it from me posting constantly, but they don't see the messages that I get from people and the inspiration of why I'm posting again.
Makes it all worth it.
Yeah, because you get
it does, and you can scroll by. You can scroll by, but listen, one person might see that post and it can change their life. So keep posting.
And there's also, even though people are getting on sobriety and everything, every single day there's someone falling into addiction again. You know what I mean? It's a vicious circle. Yeah. So I think when you get to a certain point, you just want to keep doing it to inspire other people. And I love hearing them little victory and getting them messages and that. But like you say, when you posted this, I haven't had a drink since now. I just think, wow. And then when you look deeper into it, and you look at their pictures, and they've got a picture there with a missus or a partner and kids and everything. Not only has that changed their life, it's changed their life as well.
Yeah. And it's changed the people, the taxi drivers they're not shouting at, or the person in A&E who isn't stitching up their knee. It is, the knock-on effect is vast. And that's what...
Just to clarify, is that you again?
Yes.
Yeah. the taxi driver and the knee.
The world's a safer place now. You're welcome.
I'm not here.
But it's true. It's true. And it's like I always say, it's not just the fact you didn't drink today. That's not just the win. It's all the things that didn't happen. And never forget that. It's the arguments, it's the accidents, it's the mistakes, it's the sickness, the hangovers, it's the saying things you don't mean, falling out with people. That's a whole nother level of things.
It's the ripple effect. That's what we've said on here before. There's a ripple effect. And when you're in a negative and like dark place, it has a negative, dark ripple effect. But when you're in a positive and happy place, it has a ripple effect with light. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
You're very welcome.
I love our chats, and I think we should do another live again soon. But
whenever you want to, Sam, I'm always here. Well, I go to the random club.
Yeah. No knitting clubs, I hope.
But yeah, let's do it. Thank you for asking me. I know I'm filling in for someone else, am I, or not?
No, not at all. No. That was really lovely.
It was like last minute. I'm like, who's dropped out?
No, it's just me being lazy. Okay. I was meant to ask you about a week before. But,
okay.
But thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. And it was lovely to meet you. Yeah.
You too.
And I'll be in touch soon. God bless.
Brilliant.